and you are off to your merry day, and the last thing in your mind is there going to be a bomb exploding on the way to school? You know, the only bombs that we really think about is mom going to ask me about my report card last night? Okay, that's the only bomb that we could expect, but we have a sense of domestic tranquility here, and that sense of domestic tranquility has to do with respect for the law and a system of laws that make us feel comfortable. Now, when we feel comfortable, do we do our best job? I'll give you an example. Especially, I've got some runners. We are better athletes when we feel comfortable than when we feel uncomfortable. Let me give you an example. They say in sports, you're going to hear this a lot. Probably you hear it more than most from your dad, which is there is a home court advantage. What does that mean? It means that his players are playing better because they are feeling more comfortable at home than they are away. They're more, and because they're feeling more comfortable, they play better. In a domestic, tranquil environment, we can be the better we are than a place where we have to fear every day for what we do. So, to a certain extent, to ensure domestic tranquility really is not only to ensure that we feel safe, but also to promote our productivity. Because people work better when they feel safe, and people work less well when they don't. And you see it in sports all the time. To provide for the common defense. To provide for the common defense. Now, what does this mean, Ricky? To provide for the common defense. It has to do with army, but what does it mean to provide for the common defense? Yes.
The movie Stripes. It goes with that.
I didn't see it, so you're going to have to explain it.
I can't explain it.
Okay, so I'll look at it and then go, he was right.
Yeah.
Okay, Ricky. To provide for the common defense. Okay, first of all, let's break it down like Alexander did. Common. What do you think they meant by common? Ms. Valmana, common. Common. What did they mean by common? Not that common. Not that definition of the word. To provide for the common defense. Okay. General, not quite all of us, but who is all of us? No.
Citizens.
Okay, here you have to think about what was happening then. Each state had its own militia. Each state had to defend itself from, not only from other states. You may remember that when they went to the Constitutional Convention, there were some states that were planning to invade another state. But also to protect itself from foreigners, from invasion from other places. At this time, they were probably in most fear of England. Why? Because to be fearful of Mexico was very far away. They had to come through wilderness. The Spanish weren't going to really attack us. The French, they really didn't have a great state. They didn't set up, towns and colonies and things like that, except for the ones in New Orleans. So the people we were fearing were from the English and from the Native Americans. So we wanted to establish a system where we were protected by a common army, by a common protective vehicle. And who better to protect us than who was in charge of the national military?
Washington.
So to provide for a common defense, hey, if Washington's protecting us, there's nothing going to happen to us. So to provide for a common defense was to protect all of the individualized states from external attacks from our enemies. Okay. To provide for the common defense.
Our table's the smartest.
Promote the general welfare. To promote for the general welfare. And this word welfare has really gotten a really bad rap. The word welfare has gotten a real bad rap. What does it mean today? Chuck.
Welfare?
Welfare.
Means like
That's what it means really in the definition, but the word welfare nationally means a handout. Okay? If you're part of the welfare system is you don't work for yourself, you're kind of at the government provides for you, gives you money, it takes care of you, you're there for a handout. That's in essence what the word welfare to a certain extent means. But that's not what it means here. What it means here is to promote the well-being of all of the citizens. To promote the well-being of all of its citizens. That word really has evolved. For example, Valentina, during the Great Depression, during the time of the Great Depression, the government did not feel that it was responsible if people lost their jobs. The government did not feel that it was responsible to provide for people that were starving in the streets, or even to provide them soup because they didn't have a square meal. The government didn't feel responsible because the theory that existed then was the economy will pick up because all of a sudden people will start working here and they will move over here, and all of a sudden there's this invisible hand that we can't see, but the economy is going to be okay. And for a long time, what happened with the Great Depression? It was like going down a staircase. Bad, worse, terrible, inferno. It was horrible. So, what happens? How did we get out of the Great Depression? Anybody? There was one guy who became president, and he was the president for the longest period of time in American history. Yes.
Delano.
No. Who?
Delano.
Delano?
Franklin Delano.
Oh, Franklin Delano Roosevelt.
Grover Cleveland.
Yes. Franklin Delano Roosevelt came in. And by the way, what is interesting about him is that historians say that he brought into being the welfare state. So it's tied into the Constitution to provide for the general welfare, and Franklin Delano Roosevelt, which we call FDR, brings in the welfare state, and this is what it means. The government doesn't have the main responsibility for the people getting a job and doesn't have the main responsibility for the people doing well. But the government has a responsibility to make sure that the economy is doing well enough so that people can find jobs if they need to. And that people are not starving in the street if they don't have any money. And that if you are sick, that the government can somehow apportion to you health care. That's what the welfare state really came in. So programs like Social Security Administration and the Social Security, you hear today somebody's got Social Security, that's a program that came in through Franklin Delano Roosevelt, which is a program that when you reach a certain age and you retire, begins to pay you back. Okay? Provides you health care when you need it. So to provide the general welfare is a partnership between the people and government so that the government does well, but the people also do well. People also do well. And secure the blessing of liberty to ourselves and our posterity. What is that, the blessing of liberty? First of all, is liberty a God? Because isn't only God who blesses? Is liberty a God?
Everyone is Catholic or Christian.
If you're Catholic or Christian, you believe in God, obviously one God, Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. But when we're talking about blessing, we're usually talking about a religious sense. But is that really what it means here, to secure the blessing of liberty? Yes.
It means blessing for freedom.
Blessing for freedom. I think that the word blessing really means to ensure freedom, to its people. To ensure freedom to its people. And here the word freedom, is it really used meaning out of jail? What's the freedom that we're talking about? Freedom of what? Speech, freedom of? You were going to say speech, but there are other freedoms. Freedom of? Of anything, not quite, because I don't have freedom to beat up somebody. Of what?
Education.
Education.
Of the trial.
Of trial. Okay, let's talk about the First Amendment. What are the freedoms in the First Amendment? Speech. Okay, is Ryan going to bail you out every time you guys can't get it? Freedom of speech, freedom of religion, freedom of assembly, freedom of the press. Okay, so the freedoms that we're talking about really can be grouped into freedom of expression. I express myself verbally. I express myself religiously. I express myself to my friends when I assemble. So, freedom of expression is really the liberty that we're talking about. It's not necessarily liberty from jail. It's liberty that allows me to express myself freely. Is that true all over the world?
No.
Are there places in the world where there isn't the blessing of liberty? Give me an example.
Cyber, the Middle Eastern.
A lot of Middle Eastern countries don't have. Yes.
Isn't there like a Korean country that they talk like where Malala is YouTube and everything?
In North Korea. Yes, Ricky.
Cuba.
Afghanistan. Nah, perhaps. Where else? Off the coast of Florida.
Cuba.
In certain forms of government, the government itself does not ensure the liberty of its people. Okay? And the liberty I'm talking about is the liberty of expression of its people. It tries to tell the people what to think, how to think, and when to think, rather than allowing the people to think for themselves. Okay, the blessing of liberty to ourselves and our posterity. What is our posterity? I'm not talking about your behinds. Yes. Who? Your kids. Your kids' kids. Okay, not only for you, but we want to ensure it for everybody. Do ordain and establish this Constitution for the United States of America. What is do ordain? Yes.
Do ordain means to like approve the Constitution.
We approve it.
Oh,
Okay, Ryan is hot today. He's on fire. Ryan is on fire today.
He knows everything you say, he knows before you say it.
That's awesome. He can read my mind. Wow, that's kind of crazy that he's inside my head. Yes.
Scott Savage is courting him.
Yeah, go call him. All right.
Maybe there's no other one.
So, the preamble of the Constitution really sets out the purposes. Have we always fulfilled, Cecilia, all of the purposes that are found in the preamble? No, we haven't. We haven't. During World War II, we grabbed a whole population of people just because of their ancestry. They happened to be Japanese Americans or of Japanese descent, and we put them in camps. So we took away from them their liberty, their ability to express themselves, their ability to benefit from society, the society that we established. So we have not always fulfilled the purposes of the preamble. Does that make us bad people?
No.
No. We don't always, as people, fulfill our highest purpose. You know, we wake up every morning wanting to be the very best us we can, right, Valentina? And the very best us we can oftentimes says, I'm not going to lie, I'm not going to steal, I'm not going to do this, I'm not going to do that. But sometimes we mess up and we tell a little white lie, right, Mr. Dais? Sometimes we tell a little white lie. Like, you know, I didn't know that there was going to be a quiz today. And Mom, I really didn't know. He didn't tell us, so that's, you know, I failed it because of that. It wasn't that I didn't prepare. So sometimes we don't fulfill our highest purpose. Sometimes we kind of mess up. Does that make us bad people? No, that means that we made a mistake and that hopefully we can do better next time. But that just means we made a mistake. Okay? And the same thing with the Constitution and the preamble. But is it good that we establish it, that we say this is going to be our purpose?
Yes.
Is it